channel.
Every night at 11 on GBNews, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
And welcome once again to On the Money, where we're focused on the implications of this Russia-Ukraine crisis on the cost of living here in the UK. As the military conflict between Russia and Ukraine escalates, the economic war between Russia and the West is also hotting up. The US, UK and Europe are threatening to block Russia from selling oil on Western markets. The Kremlin says it may then retaliate by limiting supplies to Western Europe of Russian gas. As ever, grown-up discussions with people who really know their stuff. On the Money, after the GB News headlines with Rosie Wright.
Good afternoon, it's just 1 minute past 1. I'm Rosie, here to keep you up to date on GB News. Ukraine Foreign Ministry claims Russian forces are shelling humanitarian evacuation routes from Mariupol after ceasefires were put in place across a number of cities. The governor of the northeastern city of Sumy has said the ceasefire has largely held in his city, allowing thousands to leave. Previous attempts at allowing citizens to evacuate some cities have failed, with both sides accusing each other of breaking the ceasefire agreements. The UNHCR estimates the number of refugees leaving the country has now reached 2 million people. President Volodymyr Zelensky has also rejected Russian proposals to evacuate Ukrainian citizens into what he's described as occupied territory in Russia and its ally, Belarus.
Occupants have again bombarded Sumy with air bombs. It is our peaceful city which has never, throughout its history, posed any kind of threat to Russia. The kind, quiet and lovely Sumy region which is being turned into hell. Mariupol, a peaceful and hard-working city which has no anger, was encircled and blocked.
The head of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, warns the situation could spiral out of control and that Russia's war must not escalate beyond Ukraine.
President Putin's assault continues and the humanitarian impact is devastating. Many civilians have been killed or wounded, and 2 million people have fled Ukraine. This is Europe's fastest growing refugee crisis since the Second World War. There are very credible reports of civilians coming under fire as they try to evacuate. Targeting civilians is a war crime.
Our reporter Paul Hawkins is in Poland by the border with Ukraine, where refugees have been fleeing to safety.
Yeah, the bus on my left is just about to head for Krakow in Poland, paid for by money from the Polish government, who today announced a further £1 million worth of aid to try and help the Ukrainian refugees. But there are also buses here that are heading to Germany, as is that one. So many European countries trying to do their bit to help the to help the Ukrainian refugees, which now, according to the UN, number 2 million. 2 million Ukrainians have left their country. 1.2 million have come here to Poland, and many of them don't know where they're heading next.
The boss of Shell has apologised after his company bought a shipment of Russian oil last week. The organisation said it would withdraw from purchasing Russian oil in the future, and it's going to shut petrol stations in the country. That comes as British drivers have been hit by the biggest weekly hike in fuel prices in at least 18 years. The average price of a litre of petrol has risen by 3 pence in the week to Monday. Diesel also saw a 5% increase over the same period. In some other news now, the independent expert panel that investigated the former Commons Speaker John Bercow, they found he was a serial bully, and they recommend he should never be allowed a parliamentary pass again. The report accused Mr Bercow, who was Speaker of the House for 10 years, of behaviour that fell below what would have been expected. In a response, Mr Bercow described the investigation as a travesty of justice and amateurish. The Health Secretary is planning to give people more control over their treatment under new visions to reform the NHS. Well, they include an expansion of personal care and a bigger role for the NHS app. Well, the National Health Service aims to have 75% of adults using the app by 2024, making it easier then for people to book appointments in practice and then see their test results. Patients will also be given more choices if waiting times are too long. In Australia now, tens of thousands of residents in Sydney have fled their homes overnight as severe flooding continues across the country's east coast. It follows record downpours that hit parts of Queensland and New South Wales over recent weeks, cutting off towns and sweeping away farms and roads. 19 people have been killed since the floods began. You are now up to date on GB News. I'll bring you more as it happens. Now let's return to Liam and On the Money.
And coming up on the money today on GB News TV and DAB Plus digital radio, could the US, UK and EU block Russia from selling oil on Western markets? Could the Kremlin retaliate by cutting off a big share of Western Europe's gas? As the military conflict in Ukraine continues, it's economic war between Russia and the West, as both sides trade alarming threats that would upend global energy markets if they're carried out. What does this ongoing conflict mean for vital exports of food, fuel and metals from Russia and Ukraine? And how will that impact your family? From the Polish border town of Przemysl, GB News correspondent Bradley Harris reports on the mounting refugee crisis as families flee Ukraine. Plus, something different for International Women's Day. Did you know that just 1 in 3 British business owners are actually female? That's why Rachel Pendered, winner of NatWest's Female Entrepreneur of the Year, is on a mission to help other women launch their own companies. She'll be giving tips and tricks on how women can get ahead in business while reflecting on the highs and lows of juggling commerce and motherhood. And as ever, I want your questions, opinions, ideas. How do the issues raised in today's On the Money impact you? Email gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet @gbnews. I'll read out some of your messages later in the show, so stay with us. This is GB News. I'm Liam Halligan. You're on the money. Now, this Russia-Ukraine conflict shows no sign of easing. The parallel economic war between Russia and the West is also intensifying, and that affects you and your family. The US Congress is debating a draft bill to block Russia from Western oil markets. That sent UK petrol and diesel prices soaring, given that Russia pumps over 10% of the world's entire oil use. That's 11 million barrels each and every day. Prices on the forecourt went above £1.70 a litre in some parts of Britain yesterday, up from less than £1.50 before this Russian invasion. And now Moscow says if Russia's blocked from selling oil in the West, it may retaliate by closing one of the 1,200-kilometre Nord Stream gas pipelines. Nord Stream 1 runs from Russia to Germany. It opened in 2011 and it's still pumping gas across the Baltic seabed. Nord Stream 2 alongside it's just been completed. But Germany stopped that opening after Putin's Ukraine invasion. The Kremlin says blocking Russian oil would be catastrophic for the world, with prices, they say, more than doubling to over $300 a barrel, which would surely send petrol above £3 a litre in the UK. And now Moscow's threatening to close Nord Stream 1, cutting off a big chunk of Western Europe's gas. This, be in no doubt, is a big escalation in the East-West economic conflict. Even during the Cold War, the Soviet Union kept pumping gas to the West. Wholesale European gas prices, up 73% this week, are now an astonishing 16 times higher than this time last year. Utility bills, already set to increase sharply in April, could soon be rising again. Leading freight shipping lines have meanwhile banned the handling of Russian cargo. That includes millions of tons of Russian-mined industrial metals like aluminum, palladium, titanium, vital to Western firms. The price of nickel, another major Russian export, rose fivefold this morning, from £20,000 to £100,000 per tonne on the London Metal Exchange before trading was suspended. Why should we care? Because nickel's used to make stainless steel, turbines, plumbing components and much more. And the fastest growing use of nickel is in batteries for electric vehicles. Tesla chief executive Elon Musk says soaring nickel prices will make electric vehicles more expensive, so fewer of us will buy them. Russia and Ukraine are also major exporters of corn, maize and barley, so food prices are soaring. The head of the World Food Programme this morning spoke of a perfect storm of conflict, climate change and coronavirus pushing up food prices. Just when they think hell on earth can't get any worse, it does, he said. These are strong words. These are worrying times. And as sanctions bite and Russia retaliates, politicians tell us we may need to pay a little more in the shops. In my view, that's a massive understatement. Russia's a smaller economy than Britain, but it's a superpower when it comes to exports of necessities, which is why prices for food, fuel and much else are set to skyrocket. And that's our On the Money question today. East-West economic war. How bad could it get? Joining me now is the editorial director at Auto Trader. That's Erin Baker. Electric vehicle sales searches dropped from 26% in September to just 16% in February as the cost of living crisis makes the switch away from conventional vehicles to electric vehicles even tougher for many hard-pressed households. I'm also joined by Chief Economist at Argus Media, David Fife. Thank you, David, for coming back to the show. And regular economist, co-founder of Regionally in the studio, Justin Urquhart-Stewart. Let's go to you, David, first, if we may, just for the update on the commodity markets. Really strong words overnight from the Russians saying they could block gas exports through Nord Stream 1. What's that done to commodity prices this morning?
Yeah, I mean, we've got both petroleum and natural gas trading at record highs. In the case of oil prices, we haven't really seen since 2008. And I think there are real concerns about the potential for an embargo. The US Congress and State Department discussing with European allies the potential for an embargo on Russian oil. The market, the crude market, the oil market more generally was already very, very tight, very low levels of inventory before the Ukraine crisis broke. And, you know, concerns about what might happen in terms of an embargo have just driven prices higher. The gasoline prices in the US up around $4 a gallon. And politically, that is a very difficult pill for the US to swallow. Gasoline is, you know, front and central as a political consideration in the US. And that's why, you know, they're looking at this very, very closely.
You, of course, specialises in monitoring a whole wealth of commodity prices. We've been focusing on the money on oil and gas in recent days, but of course, palladium, titanium and nickel prices have also been rising. This morning, the London Metal Exchange suspended trades of nickel when we saw that huge spike. Have you ever seen anything like that in commodity markets in your years of analysing them?
It's pretty unusual. I mean, we've seen it, as you said, in the LME this morning in terms of the nickel market. You know, obviously the other side of the coin was that just after the invasion, we saw equities on the Moscow exchange trading being suspended for the opposite reason. In other words, to prevent the value collapsing there. So these are absolutely exceptional times. And, you know, I think in terms of the commodity complex, this isn't something that's going to be fixed very quickly. The threat of a cutoff in Russian supplies to global markets is likely to entail prices remaining very high for months to come, because there are limited alternatives. And that's really the key. If there is an embargo on Russian supplies, how does the global economy scramble to replace those supplies with alternatives?
Now let's turn to Erin Baker. Erin, we invited you to come on the Money quite a few days ago to talk about this new research that Auto Trader's done into sales and interest in electric cars. It's clear that interest was already ebbing because they're relatively expensive, as your research shows. And so the number of people, the share of people searching for electric cars to buy as opposed to conventional vehicles has been slipping. But now we have, don't we, this incredible increase in nickel prices, which is used to make batteries that go into electric cars. That's also going to dent sales, surely, as prices rise.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it just increases the pressure on the government to halt the scrapping of the remaining incentives on round electric cars. You know, they've already reduced the plug-in grant. They're going to scrap that in 2023. They're getting rid at the end of this month of the incentive on home charging boxes, which are crucial to take up of electric cars. And then on top of everything else, you've got even more incentives being scrapped in the run up to 2030. They seem to think that we can go with the stick approach as opposed to the carrot approach, but it just won't work when we're being squeezed with rising energy prices and now rising nickel prices as well. We already have a weight on stock coming through of electric cars.
Now, I don't want your previous research to be completely overtaken by events, Erin. It's a substantial piece of work. We wanted to feature it anyway. It's Auto Trader's The Road to 2030 report, published today, before we knew that nickel prices were going to go up fivefold in one day. Your research says even before this increase in nickel prices, which will, of course, increase the price of electric cars because of their importance in making the batteries, you say that electric vehicles remain out of reach, and I quote, for all but the wealthiest car buyer. So what you're saying, I think, Erin, is that your research shows that even without this increase in the price of industrial metals we're seeing as a result of this Russia-Ukraine conflict, it was already going to be hard for us to make the switch to electric vehicles before the government effectively outlaws new petrol and diesel cars. That's penciled in for 2030.
Yes, that's right. I mean, on average, the price of an electric car on our site at Auto Trader at the moment is 37% more expensive than its diesel or petrol counterpart. Now, when you combine that with rising energy prices, you very quickly knock off the margin that's left for people to make up that cost deficit, which they would normally do by having much cheaper running costs. If they don't have the cheaper running costs on top of that expensive sticker price, you are going to see take-up of electric cars absolutely stall.
We're going to carry on this discussion after the break, but just before that, Justin, let's turn to you. You're a denizen of financial markets, if you like. Pretty astonishing things going on here. The Russians speaking the way the Soviets didn't even speak in terms of threatening to not pump gas to Western Europe. Pretty amazing.
I've never seen a combination of issues like this coming through. At the moment, we're just looking at individual symptoms, the price of various commodities and things like that. Go back to the primary driver of our economies, the consumer. And the consumer this year, we've discussed before, have a year of squeeze. It's got a lot worse because a lot of the rises we don't even know about yet because of the cost of commodities, for soft commodities, all those issues of wheat and barley and all those elements, a lot of which would have been coming out of Ukraine. And that hasn't even come through yet. That's almost next year's story. So this very nasty storm of these food, fuel, hitting then the consumer confidence. That's very nasty.
You know, some really good research that is just being blown out of the water. I just spoke about this Auto Trader report, months in the making, and then suddenly nickel prices escalate, which makes the report even more relevant, if slightly outdated. We had the Resolution Foundation this morning, a very highly respected think tank that focuses on vulnerable families, the poorer end of the income spectrum. They're saying this cost of living hit, again, even before this Russia-Ukraine conflict, is going to be the worst since the 1970s.
Well, Liam, you were highlighting this last week on the programme, and you saw, though, had an interview with one of your viewers, a delightful lady, and the pain she was going to have to go through.
Yeah.
Actually, when it was being said, well, of course, there's a possibility of having a loan from the government to help. Loan, she said, I can't pay it back.
Yeah.
So, this isn't really addressing the underlying issues. So, responsible people who've been trying their best to try and make sure they're going to be safe in their pension periods, I'm afraid are going to find out very painful indeed. This is just adding to it, and I'm afraid there's more to come. So some more serious thinking needs to be done here to actually manage the restructuring of the economy to protect the weakest here from very unpleasant periods.
It makes you wonder what Rishi Sunak's going to do in his spring statement on the 23rd of March. I mean...
Well, I hope we don't get a repeat of what we saw before, which was like a Gordon Brown list of minor little tinkering.
Yeah.
This is
clever,
too important.
clever.
Yeah. Don't be clever. Be really smart with this. This is serious stuff. Make sure you're looking after the weakest in society and making sure actually we can start controlling and being to grow the economy again. We can do it. We can't do it on our own. We are going to continue this discussion after the break with Justin Urquhart-Stewart, who you just heard, with Aaron Baker from Auto Trader talking about the cost of electric vehicles, with David Fife of Argus Media analysing those commodity market trends. This is On the Money with me, Liam Halligan. Stay with us after the weather.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for...
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
And welcome back. You're on the money with me, Liam Halligan. US Congress is debating a draft law to block Russia from Western oil markets. That's sent UK petrol and diesel prices soaring, given that Russia pumps over 10% of the world's entire oil use each day. We're asking, East-West economic conflict, how bad can it get? I'm still here with my expert panel. David Fife of Argus Media, let's go back to you. Lots of accusations, lots of finger pointing, lots of chest beating. As I say, it's not just the US, it's the UK and the EU talking about trying to embargo Russian oil on Western markets. And the Russians have said they may stop pumping gas, at least through the Nord Stream pipeline from Germany to Germany and onto Western Europe. The Russians say without their oil, and they pump 11 million barrels a day, we could see oil hit $300 a barrel. Is that fanciful?
I mean, I think the absolute level of price, I think, is open to debate. I think the key point is that, you know, Russia exports around 7 million barrels per day of crude and refined products onto global markets. And so really, as I said earlier on, the question becomes, you know, if a substantial portion of that is excluded from US and European markets, how does the market respond to replace that? You'd need potentially, you know, more in terms of strategic stock releases. You'd need Saudi Arabia and others to boost production. You'd be looking potentially to a more rapid resolution of the Iranian nuclear deal, which is being negotiated at the present time. But you'd still also need prices to rise to a certain extent to choke off demand. So although the $300 per barrel level might be a bit of an exaggeration, and remember for Brent we're around $130 a barrel today, I think it's quite conceivable that prices might have to rise to somewhere in a $150 to $200 per barrel range if this was a sustained blockage of Russian export flows.
$200 a barrel would send petrol and diesel prices well above £2 a litre, it strikes me. You're right, David, there is a sort of geopolitical game of chess going on now, ridiculous as it may seem to people watching and listening to this who have to deal with these high prices. I'm sure the Western world is trying to pressure OPEC, the oil exporting cartel, pressure the Saudis, the Emirates to pump more oil, as you say. We're trying to make nice now with countries we've previously embargoed their oil, the Iranians, the Venezuelans. And the Russians, meanwhile, are saying that they can sell their oil and gas if they need to in their brand new pipelines to the Chinese.
Yeah, I mean, there's China takes about 1.5 million barrels per day of Russian crude. Potentially, you could have a bit of a workaround whereby the Chinese take some of the 2 to 3 million barrels per day that is currently going into the US and Europe. But there are logistical constraints as well. You're talking about longer sailing times for tankers. You're talking about crude quality issues as well, in terms of China replacing Middle Eastern crude with Russian. So, it's not a simple instantaneous switch that could be made straight away. So I think this is, even if that were to happen, it's going to be disruptive for the market, and it's going to ratchet prices higher.
Fascinating stuff. Let's go back to Erin Baker. Erin, I guess you didn't think you'd be caught up in a discussion about geopolitics and oil pipelines. So let's go back to Auto Trader's research into electric vehicles. As I say, I do think it's a very important piece of research. It has kind of been overtaken by events, given what's happening on nickel markets, because that, of course, does impact the cost of electric vehicles, because nickel's so important in those electric vehicle batteries. But just talk a little bit more, if you would, Erin, about the market for electric vehicles. We've had people on the money before who say that one concern that buyers have isn't just the high cost, a cost which could now rise. There's also concern on the second-hand market for electric vehicles, because those batteries, they fade.
Well, I think there's less concern about batteries fading. Most car brands now, when they put an electric car on the market, they offer a battery warranty for 8 years, which is as long as most people keep their cars. In fact, as we know, 93%, 95% of people in this country are on 3-year finance deals. So I don't think reliability and warranty issues with electric cars is a big issue, and it's certainly not one of the big issues we see turning people off electric cars. You know, that remains this high sticker price, and now the squeeze on energy prices, combined actually with the low stock, and combined also with the lack of charging infrastructure in the country. And it's becoming this increasing supply and demand problem whereby, you know, it's a chicken and the egg. Where are people going to put charging infrastructure? Are they going to put it in the affluent areas where people can afford electric cars, or are they going to roll it out everywhere? Because eventually we do all need to make the switch to electric, because by 2030, from 2030 onwards, there will be no more new petrol and diesel cars on sale. So this does have to happen. And to my mind, the government is going to have to get involved with better incentives. It also includes, by the way, incentives we didn't mention last time round, benefit in kind, company car owners. At the moment, that tax break is 2%. Sorry, by the way, for my dodgy internet connection. Is at 2%, but that's going to hugely rise. So, you know, Stop trying to beat the motorists around the head to make them switch to electric, and start easing them into that process.
Erin, have no fear, you're fully connected. Final word from you, Justin. Erin rightly says that is the government's position, no more new petrol and diesel cars by 2030. Yeah, that's not going to happen, is it?
No, it's not. And you're giving everybody, the moment every reason for consumers to turn around and say, I'm just going to wait. Yeah. Wait till it calms down a bit. Stop.
Fabulous discussion. Justin Urquhart, Stuart, Erin Baker of Auto Trader. Really glad we got your research on. Come back soon. And as ever, huge expertise, David Fife of Argus Media. Thank you so much, all of you, for that discussion. Now, we move on. Since Russia launched a full-scale war against Ukraine, thousands of people, of course, have fled the country, many by train. Our reporter Bradley Harris is at a railway station in Przemysl, which is near the border between Poland and Russia. Brad, great to have you on the show. I hope you're well and safe. What's the situation?
Thanks, Liam. Yeah, I'm well, I'm safe, and so are many other people who have fled Ukraine. There's over 2 million people now that have fled that country since the Russian invasion. Over 1 million of those fleeing are here in Poland. You can see behind me Ukrainians turning up right now with their suitcases, everything they can take with them. For some people, one day they're living in Ukraine, a country they know so well. The next, they are having to up sticks, grab what they can in a matter of minutes and flee a country that is currently in fighting, in war. Here at one of the main train stations in Przemysl, this is the main entrance to the station. Outside, we've got plastic tables with bottles of water, free food, free nappies for children. Of course, there's a lot of children turning up here, many women with prams. All of this is for free. We've got a man playing a guitar in the corner to try and lift people's spirits. Of course, it's very cold at the moment, around -6, -7. There is one woman who is waiting for a relative to turn up. I'm with her now. Thank you so much. I must say that you speak Ukrainian, doesn't speak English. We have our translator with us. Who are you waiting for at the train station?
Подскажите, пожалуйста, кого вы ждете здесь? Я приїхала з Італії і приїхала забрати свого внука і ще одну дівчинку, яка без батьків залишилась.
I'm coming from Italy and now I'm waiting for one girl who stay without parents and also son of my son.
Waiting for your own son to arrive here in Przemysl. How will you feel when you see these people's faces?
Підскажіть, будь ласка, як ви себе взагалі почуваєтесь, коли ось ви бачите обличчя цих людей, коли вони приїхали?
Мені хочеться плакати за цих людей і за Україну.
I want to cry because of these people, because of Ukrainian situation now.
What do you make of the situation in Ukraine?
Підскажіть, будь ласка, що ось взагалі, як буде це все?
Я думаю, що Україна переможе. Слава Україні!
I hope that Ukrainian will and слава Україні.
Yes, thank you. Good to hear people's thoughts there, people waiting here at the station for people fleeing Ukraine. It's an emotional moment, but you can hear from the music, it's also a moment of relief for those fleeing the country.
Their GB News reporter on the border with Ukraine in the Polish town of Przemysl. This is On the Money with me, Liam Halligan. Coming up, today's Money Talks interview is with female entrepreneur Rachel Pendered. As a managing director herself, Rachel will be giving tips and tricks on how to get ahead in business as a woman. But first, the GB News headlines with Rosie Wright.
Good afternoon, it's 1:34. I'm Rosie Wright. I'll keep you up to date here on GB News. Ukraine's foreign ministry claims Russian forces are shelling humanitarian evacuation routes from the city of Mariupol after ceasefires have been put in place across a number of cities. The governor of the northeastern city of Sumy had said the ceasefire has largely held. That's allowed thousands to leave. Previous attempts at allowing citizens to leave have failed, with both sides accusing each other of breaking ceasefire agreements. Now, the UNHCR estimates the number of refugees leaving the country has now reached 2 million people. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is going to address MPs in the House of Commons at 5 o'clock this afternoon. It's going to be the first time a president of another country has addressed the chamber. Zelensky's spoken to Boris Johnson on nearly a daily basis since Russia invaded and has made a number of speeches of late to Western leaders in the last week, asking for military support and supplies. The boss of Shell has apologised after his company bought a shipment of Russian oil last week. The organisation said it would withdraw from purchasing Russian oil in the future and that it will shut petrol stations in Russia. It comes as drivers have been hit by the biggest weekly hike in fuel prices in at least 18 years because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. There's a warning employees in Britain could be facing the sharpest decline in real incomes since the 70s. Think tank The Resolution Foundation estimates a fall of £1,000 for each household. It's a scale of decline which would normally be associated with recession. Their report says the crisis in Ukraine has increased both the scale of price rises and the degree of uncertainty. And some other news now. The independent expert panel that investigated the former Commons Speaker John Bercow found he was a serial bully. They recommend he should never be allowed a parliamentary pass again. The report accused Mr Bercow, who was Speaker of the House for 10 years, of behaviour that fell below what would be expected. In response, Mr Bercow described the investigation as a travesty of justice and said it was amateurish. You're now up to date here on GB News. We're on your TV, online and your DAB+ radio. Don't go anywhere. On the Money, we'll be back shortly.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate.
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel.
Right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
And welcome back. It's 1:38. You're on the money with me, Liam Halligan. Now, a former teacher's turned a pub in County Durham into a thriving business hub. Nicola Jane Little created the Mint Business Club back in 2019. Her aim was to help small business owners connect with others by offering training and support. She's now bought the Praise Hotel, which was a popular hostelry and concert dating back to the mid-1800s. And she's turned that into a business centre. Our North East of England reporter Rachel Sweeney is live for us at the hub now. Rachel, it is International Women's Day. How many businesses are involved in that hub?
Well, on International Women's Day, I'm saying International Business Day because I'm so impressed by the 8 businesses that are absolutely thriving here in a pub that's been going since 1837. Men used to come in here for a pint, and now women are running businesses out of it. And with me now, you must meet Nicola Jane Little. Now, all of this started because you were a teacher, you had a big life change. Tell us about it.
I just, 18 months ago I got diagnosed with ADHD, but back then I didn't know. So I was a school teacher, I loved my job, loads of stuff I couldn't cope with. So I just decided to leave, as you do, and run my own business. Here we are 13 and a bit years later in the new Mint Business Hub. Couldn't be happier.
And you celebrate your ADHD?
Absolutely. I wouldn't be here doing this without all of the goodness that ADHD gives me. If you're going to buy an old pub, convert it to a business centre, you need a bit of energy.
Well, you have plenty of that. When you come in here, you can really feel it. It's like an entrepreneurial sort of vibe, isn't it? And that's what we're good at in the North East of England. Absolutely. And you're really flying the flag for women.
Yeah, completely. So our membership club is probably 90% female. It wasn't designed as that, but there's a lot of women working at home doing great things, and Mint is here to support them. We all support each other. It's awesome.
Do you know what I absolutely love about this building is how iconic it is in concert in County Durham. It's been here for, feels like forever.
200 years. So it was built in 1837, and it was the first place to have running water. So everybody in the town came and got the water from here, and it was a hotel, and it was here to support all of the entrepreneurial stuff going on in concert, the steelworks. Since then, it's always been a leisure building, either a pub or a hotel, and now it's a business centre with a community space downstairs, which will get opened eventually. So I'm really proud of what we've already achieved.
It's very symbolic, isn't it? And it really symbolises what you want to do with the future.
Well, absolutely, because when I left teaching, I wanted my own school, and I guess, in a way, a place to do training, co-working, support business. That's kind of what I've got here. But it's been a dream since I left school, so 13 years. Keep dreaming, ladies. And here it is, we're standing in it.
How do you manage all of this and all the charity work you do?
Well, I've got a busy brain, so I have to do stuff. I can't just sit about. I don't understand the words chill out. What does that actually mean? And the team behind me, and the 3 that are missing as well, we're just a phenomenal bunch of people with our own skills, and they all keep me right. I have to say, I'm good at me good stuff, but everything else I'm rubbish at, the guys keep me right.
We've been talking on GB News this morning about the importance of girls growing up in the North East and knowing their self-worth and having confidence. What message do you have for them?
For sure, when you get out of school and you're grown up, it's not the same as what your school experience was. We all are worthy. We all absolutely need to support each other, but every single person needs to be celebrated. That's what we do. We celebrate everybody. And for all the girls who think they can't achieve, or maybe they're neurodiverse like me, you certainly can, because I'm no more special than anybody else, and here we are, we're doing this thing. And please be sure that it changes when you come out of education. We all have so much potential, and I guess that's what the club is there for, is to help everybody reach their potential.
When you were a teacher, you'd just been diagnosed with ADHD. Was there any doubts in your mind? Because this is quite something to take on.
Yeah, so when I was teaching, I didn't know, but I worked with a lot of neurodiverse kids and kids with disability in SEN, and they were my kids, and like I really resonated with those kids. And here we come 13 years later to find out I'm actually like them. So it was a bit of a shock, bit of a surprise. It's life-changing, but answered all the questions, and the energy and the vision and the stuff that I see differently is why we're standing in this building. It is, and it's why I support thousands of small business owners across the North East. You know, I wouldn't change it. Difficult sometimes, absolutely, but I wouldn't change it.
What message do you have for women who are maybe in a job that they keep thinking, you know, I really want to change this, but they're a bit frightened?
Oh, life's too short, isn't it? Life's too short. Have we not just been through the worst couple of years ever? And the stuff that you're watching happening at the minute, I think we deserve to give ourselves a chance. You know, and as long as you've got the right team around you, the support, your tribe, what do we have to lose, actually? Because if you're in employment, you can always go and get another job. Doing something like this, self-employed, there's nothing that teaches you how to do it, but it's proper mint, Rachel. It properly is mint.
And for those of you who don't know what proper mint means, it's North East slang, but absolutely wonderful, as are you. Thank you for joining us here today on GB News.
Well, these are tough times, but that was a wonderful report there. Thank you, Rachel Sweeney, in Consett, County Durham, with Nicola Jane Little, founder of the Mint Business Club. Now, lots of you have been emailing me on this East-West economic conflict we've been covering here on The Money. Cornelius wrote, the idiotic sanctions on the usage of SWIFT, that's the International Banking Payment System, that will be the downfall of the EU and the euro. Politicians pumping up their chests without realising the full consequences of their actions, says Cornelius. Mark emailed gbviews@gbnews.uk to say maybe it's time to blockade roads and petrol stations, bringing the country to a halt until oil prices are reduced by the government. Elizabeth says the simple truth is that if this continues, I and many others will not be able to pay for fuel and food. This is a serious crisis. I hope the government realises it. Reginald got in touch to say, I find it very difficult to accept that America's deliberately trying to stop us heating our homes and running our cars while they're safe and miles away from the war. And Gary says, I don't know about other pensioners, but for me on a fixed income in Scotland, finding an extra £2,792 a year, that's the increase, that's what the average fuel will be after this Ofcom cap rises next month. Along with all the other increases, says Gary, is going to cause me and my wife significant hardship. The possible £200 aid, even if eligible, will make no difference. Eat or heat is not just a throwaway line, it is a reality. Carol says Russia could well divert supplies to China, but if the rest of the world is forced into recession, so will the Chinese economy, and therefore we enter a deflationary spiral. Really perceptive emails from GB News viewers and listeners as ever. Please keep them coming. You are an integral part of On the Money and indeed of this entire channel. Now it's time for my daily interview series, Money Talks. And my guest today is another Rachel. It's Rachel Pendered. She's the founder and managing director of a communications agency called Media Zoo. Previously a TV producer, Rachel created Media Zoo in 2003, and it's since grown from a small team working in a flat to a company employing over 100 people across 5 sites, not just in London and Glasgow, but also in Zurich and elsewhere. Rachel was recognised as NatWest Female Entrepreneur of the Year in 2020, and in the same year, The Telegraph said that she was one of Britain's top 50 most ambitious business leaders. But success rarely comes without struggle. And after Rachel had her first child and took time off, she came back to an industry she felt she didn't know. That's why she's now on a mission to help other female entrepreneurs and working mums thrive in the workplace. And so it is International Women's Day, as we've said, and this is Rachel Pendered, my latest guest on Money Talks. Rachel, great to have you here in the On the Money studio. Happy International Women's Day. Am I allowed to say that?
You are. Thank you. It's a wonderful day.
So you were a pretty well-known person in the TV production industry, behind the scenes, pulling all the strings, making things happen. We all know where the power is in television, don't we? It's not the on-camera people. How did you translate that experience into actually setting up a business? How daunting was it to take people on thinking, I've got to find their wages, I've got to make payroll?
Well, first of all, I never really intended to set up a business. I'm what I think you'd call an accidental entrepreneur. So they say that lots of people that start their own companies are those who can't really work for others and don't like the rules and red tape, and I was definitely one of those. So initially, Media Zoo and my part in it started really as a hobby company. I just thought I'd do that until I grew up and had children, really. Yeah. And it didn't really happen for me like that. I found myself as a single mum, and I suddenly needed to take what had been a hobby and a little bit of fun and something that I didn't take all that seriously and provide for me and my daughter. And when that happened, I really understood that I needed to learn a little bit about business, I needed to have a focus, and I needed to have a vision.
You must have been scared. I mean, most entrepreneurs are scared. If they're not scared, maybe they don't really understand what's going on. It must have been quite daunting at the beginning. How did you overcome self-doubt? How did you overcome the concerns of friends saying, oh, Rachel, just get a normal job, it'll be much safer?
Well, I don't really remember anyone sort of doubting me, but certainly I did feel really frightened. And some days when I drove into the office, I felt like I was having a panic attack just walking through the door. So I did find the idea of a wage bill and all those kind of things really, really overwhelming. Absolutely, I did. But when you put one foot in front of the other and you believe in yourself, in the end, that fear falls away and the self-confidence comes and the success comes and you begin to believe in yourself. Absolutely.
Give us some tips and tricks for women watching this. It is International Women's Day. It's right that we focus on your experience, not just as a successful business leader, which you clearly are, given the rewards the awards that you've racked up and the size and scale of the business. But as a woman, what have you had to do that's been different, do you think? And what tips would you give other women who want to take that step, as you so nicely put it, put one foot in front of the other and build that self-confidence?
So first of all, I think it's incredibly important that we have more female entrepreneurs in this country. Currently, the value of the entrepreneurial gender gap in the UK is £250 billion. That means if there are as many women running businesses as men, there would be £250 billion added to the UK economy. And right now, with the cost of living crisis, etc., this is money that we need in the economy. So first of all, what I would say to any woman thinking about starting a business is do it. You can do it. Have faith in yourself. Secondly, I really want to talk about young girls and entrepreneurship. Role modelling is so important. The reason that I'm here today isn't because I want to come and shout about, look what I've done. It's because I know that if you can see her, you can be her. There are incredible women, such as Rosalind Blair, who founded Alexander Mann Solutions, is now valued at over £2 billion. She's been an incredible mentor to me. I needed to see her and see what she's achieved to believe I could do that. So first of all, if you're a 13, 14-year-old girl at school and you're thinking, what do I want to do when I grow up? Please consider entrepreneurship as a career. If you're a careers advisor, think about talking to the girls that you work with about entrepreneurship. And if you're a parent, don't discount entrepreneurship as a potential career path. If you have an idea, it is about taking risks. Being an entrepreneur is about taking risks, and it's about raising funding. And this is also really, really important. Currently, I'm sure you know, only a penny in every pound of private equity money goes to female-led businesses. Only a penny in every pound. We can't have an equal world unless the wealth of the world is held equally by a really diverse group of people. So we need more female entrepreneurs. When women start businesses, they provide meaningful employment, they help to heal society's problems, and they create and build really great companies. And again, this is something that will help in an inflationary economy where we're all worried about the cost of living crisis.
We are worried about it. I don't like to be negative here on The Money every day. Believe it or not, I'm quite an optimistic person, as I know you are, Rachel. But we are facing a cost of living crisis. We were facing a cost of living crisis for months before this ghastly invasion of Ukraine. As an entrepreneur, you really have a sense of where the economy's going. You have commerce under your fingernails. Your view is as important as anyone's when it comes to where you think the economy's going. What's your take, Rachel?
So I absolutely think that we are in the land of opportunity, but I think we need to really care and think about our people. My message to all employers out there is to really think about your people now and the impact that this is having on them. I think that when it comes specifically to women in the workplace, and this is International Women's Day, we know that a young girl graduating today will be in her 90s before she achieves gender pay equality with her male counterparts. That means that in the UK alone, every single woman, on average, works 51 days a year for free. So what I would urge women who don't want to necessarily go out and start their own business, I would urge them to think about, are they being paid what they are worth? Have they negotiated a pay rise? Are they being paid fairly and equitably for the work that they are doing? I don't want my daughter to be disadvantaged in years to come. I don't want her to have less of a chance of starting her own business or being paid fairly. And this is a journey that we're all on to make a more equitable and fair society for everybody.
There are going to be a lot of people out there wondering, can I ask my boss for a pay rise? Have I got the job security? Am I valuable enough to the company? Those things apply to men and women, don't they? Perhaps particularly to women.
Taking risks is part, as far as I'm concerned, of living a really full life. But it's scary. And it's scary to ask for what you believe that you're worth, absolutely. But you don't have to do that in a provocative or challenging way. You can simply, first of all, you have to make the decision to ask. My experience of employing, I think it's close to over 100 women now, is that women don't come forward as much as their male counterparts to ask for pay rises. I've had the experience before of offering pay rises to a number of the women that work for me, and they've actually said, "Oh no, I don't deserve it. I don't want it. I don't need that." So my first piece of advice is, if you're offered a pay rise, take it with both hands. You do deserve it. Secondly, benchmark your salary and what other people in the industry are getting for similar work. And thirdly, really understand the value that you have and that you hold for your organisation.
Rachel, it's been an honour to talk to you on International Women's Day. Best luck with Media Zoo, with the business.
Thank you so much.
And long may it continue. And I hope you employ lots of people and have more well-deserved success. Rachel Pendered there of Media Zoo, our latest Money Talks guest. That's all we've got time for today here on The Money. Thanks for joining me. I'll be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. looking again at how this East-West conflict is impacting you at home. Thanks for joining me today. This is GB News on TV and DAB plus digital radio and on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Liam Halligan, and that was On The Money.
Hello there. Fine and dry for much of the country through this afternoon before cloud thickens with some outbreaks of rain later towards the west. However, the key component of the weather over the next few days will be the wind. It's going to be strong, gale force towards the northwest and cold, particularly across more eastern counties. However, if you can escape the wind through this afternoon, quite pleasant across much of Scotland, central and eastern areas of England. But further west, that nagging wind will bring with it cloud outbreaks of rain. The rain could turn heavy from time to time across Northern Ireland as it approaches western parts of Wales, the West Country and eventually the western side of Scotland. Temperatures typically coming in around 8 to 11 Celsius, maybe a 12 in the south with that sunshine. Now through the evening and overnight, we watch as this rain pushes from the west towards the northeast. It will die out in situ, but still some drizzly bits and pieces towards the early hours of the morning of Wednesday further south and east. But then we'll watch as another batch of rain arrives from the northwest this time through the first part of Wednesday. Wednesday morning won't be as cold as Tuesday morning, even so that wind continues through the day. The cloud comes and goes. This weather front towards the northwest is slow moving, but it will continue to bring with it rain across western Scotland, much of Northern Ireland having a bit of a washout of a day, and eventually this rain just clips the western side of Wales as well as the West Country. A windy end to the day elsewhere as temperatures climb to even 12 to 14 degrees Celsius with some sunshine through the afternoon across central and eastern areas of England. And then through Wednesday night, we watch as the rain pushes down towards northern counties of England, eastern Scotland as well as Wales. On the back edge, there could even be some snow above around 300-400 metres with showers to follow. And here's your outlook through the rest of the working week. Showery, windy, but temperatures on the mild side.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate.
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
Make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel.
Right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
It is almost a fortnight since Ukraine went from a peaceful nation to a country under violent attack from its neighbour. Refugees are fleeing